On Christmas, my son exploded with shocking words, "Only my mother-in-law is welcome." Discover how a simple gathering spiraled into a night of reckoning. The lights twinkled on every house, casting a festive glow across Sarah's charming suburban neighborhood in Ohio. The scent of freshly baked cookies mingled with the crisp winter air as her family and friends gathered in their beautifully decorated living room. For years, Sarah had poured her heart and soul into creating the perfect Christmas. This year felt special. It was her chance to bring everything together, to bridge the chasm between her estranged husband, Tom, and his formidable mother, Martha. She held her breath, hoping this night could heal their family rifts, but as laughter filled the room, Sarah caught snippets of Martha's stern voice, bickering with Tom in the corner about past grievances. Her heart raced, the holiday cheer dimming in her chest. Just when she thought things couldn't get worse, 10-year-old Ethan burst out, "Only my mother-in-law is welcome." Silence descended like a thick fog. Sarah's stomach dropped. She had always wanted to make things better, but now the air was teeming with unspoken truths. In that moment, everything shifted. The warmth of the holiday faded, replaced by the chill of years of resentment. Sarah felt the weight of Ethan's words seep deep into her heart. The joy she fought for now felt like a distant memory. She glanced around at the faces frozen in shock, realizing her son had accidentally opened a door to long-buried pain. Was this really the family Christmas she envisioned? As the clock ticked closer to midnight, Sarah wrestled with these emotions. Tension simmered, buried years of conflict surfacing. Conversations that should be flowed with laughter cracked open into heartfelt confessions. Tom, caught in the crosshairs of loyalty, struggled to articulate his stance between his wife and mother. Martha, who always seemed so unyielding, now revealed glimpses of vulnerability, her fears laid bare like old wounds. The room crackled with that raw honesty, grief hanging thick in the air, intensifying the pressure until it was almost unbearable. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, tears spilled from Sarah's eyes, mingling with a sense of hope. Could this be the moment they finally break free from the chains of their past? With her heart pounding, Sarah's determination surged. She might just be the one to mend their fractured ties. Voices wrapped around her like a comforting embrace. Laughter emerged in the cracks, whispers of understanding blending with the ache. But with emotions still raw and unresolved, the question loomed heavy: could true healing emerge from such tangled hurt? And as the clock neared midnight, the family held their breath, teetering on the edge of something profound and terrifying. Would they discover the understanding they desperately craved, or would the night close in on them, leaving their warmest hopes unfulfilled? The holiday spirit lingered, waiting for an answer. Sarah's heart raced as she looked at Tom and Martha, a whirlwind of emotions swirling between them. The room felt charged, a palpable energy that could explode at any moment. She took a deep breath, hoping to steady herself. "Maybe we should all talk about this," she suggested, glancing at her son, who had retreated to a corner, looking confused yet somehow calm amidst the emotional storm. His innocence hung in the air, a reminder of what truly mattered. Family. Tom shifted uncomfortably, his gaze dropping to the floor. "What's there to say?" he muttered, his voice barely a whisper. He seemed trapped between a rock and a hard place, pulled in two directions by loyalty and love. Martha, however, appeared to be gathering herself. "We're here, aren't we?" she said sharply, her tone clipped but with a hint of uncertainty. "Maybe it's time to start being honest instead of hiding behind all this." She waved her arm, gesturing to the Christmas decorations, their smiles, their laughter, everything that glittered but felt hollow. Sarah felt a flicker of courage ignite within her. Yes. This is a time for honesty. We can't keep pretending everything is fine. Ethan's face lit up for an instant, his eyes wide with fascination as he watched the adults navigate their tangled emotions. For him, Christmas had always been a magical time, where wishes came true and families came together. But now, he sensed the weight of words not spoken, of things left unsaid. "Mom, what are you talking about?" he asked, his voice cutting through the tension. Sarah approached him, kneeling down to his level. "Sometimes, my love, families have problems. But the only way to fix them is to talk about them. To share what's in our hearts." Ethan nodded slowly, processing her words. Martha's eyes softened as she watched her grandson. "Ethan, I'm sorry if I ever made you feel like you had to choose. I never meant for you to be caught in the middle." Her voice trembled, vulnerability creeping into her usually fierce demeanor. Tom looked up, the weight of years resting on his shoulders. "This isn't just about Martha and me," he hesitated, glancing between the two women in his life. "It's about what's best for Ethan, what kind of family we want to be." Silence enveloped them once again. The quiet was almost deafening, filled with realizations and a tender acknowledgement of their shared pain. Sarah felt an unexpected wave of understanding washing over her. Maybe this was their moment, the catalyst they needed to ignite real change. Suddenly, Ethan piped up. "Can we just start over?" His innocent words broke the silence, a simple suggestion from a child who only wanted to see his family happy together. "Like a Christmas do-over? We can rewrite how we do this." Tears stung Sarah's eyes as she chuckled softly, the weight on her heart lightening. "A do-over, that might be the best idea anyone has had tonight." "But how?" Tom asked, looking to Sarah for guidance. "What do we do?" The room waited in anticipation, a moment suspended in time filled with possibilities and hope. Sarah pondered, feeling the warmth of their connectedness. They had come so far, yet they stood at the precipice of a fresh start. And as the clock inched toward midnight, she said softly, "Let us share our favorite Christmas memories, the times when we felt the happiest together. And in doing so, let us build new ones." Their eyes locked, a shared understanding blossoming between them. Each of them had sacrificed something important, but tonight could mark the beginning of healing. Suddenly, will they really find a way to rewrite their family narrative? As the clock struck 12 and the cheers of jubilant New Year's celebrations danced outside, the real challenge awaited them within. Would their wishes carry weight, or would old patterns pull them back into the shadows? As the clock chimed midnight, the echoes of celebration filtered through the open window, mingling with the tension that still hung in the room. Sarah's heart thumped in her chest. This was their moment to shine, but she felt the shadows of doubt creeping in. Would talking really help them? Ethan grinned with the innocence only a child could possess, ready for a do-over. "Okay. I'll go first. My favorite Christmas memory is when Grandma brought the reindeer cookies." He giggled, his eyes dancing with joy. "I couldn't believe they were real. I ate 3 in one go." His laughter was infectious, lightening the atmosphere. Martha's smile broke through her earlier uncertainty. "Oh, sweetie, I remember that. You had frosting all over your face." She chuckled, recalling the moment fondly. Tom relaxed a little as he joined in. "And I remember trying to capture a picture of you without making a mess." He winked at Ethan, the tension in his shoulders loosening. "See?" Ethan exclaimed, his enthusiasm lifting everyone. "We can have fun." "Okay, my turn," Sarah said, standing a little taller. "One of my favorite moments was our first Christmas in this house. We spent the whole day building that giant snowman." Her voice faltered, but she soldiered on. "We ended up covered in snow and laughter. It felt like pure magic." The warmth in the room intensified. Tom nodded, and Martha chuckled as memories flashed through her mind. "I remember that. You almost knocked it down when you tried to put the hat on." They all laughed together, a sweet little chorus of heartbeats and shared moments, mending the rift that had formed. But just as the laughter seemed to solidify their bond, Martha glanced at Tom. "What about our last Christmas together?" Her voice dropped, the playfulness replaced by something heavier, something unresolved. "What about it?" Tom replied, his brow furrowing. It was the last time we were a complete family. Before her voice trailed off, and Sarah watched as Tom's jaw tightened. Ethan, sensing the shift, looked back and forth between the adults. What happened? His little voice cracked through the tension like glass shattering. Tom inhaled sharply, his vulnerability surfacing as he sat a little straighter. Before things got complicated. Before we let our differences break us apart. Silence swallowed them again, heavier than before. It felt like a break in the surface of a lake, ready to flood them with memories they had buried. Sarah quickly added, sometimes, we let misunderstandings get in the way. Tonight reminds us that we are family first. Can we fix it? Ethan asked, his childlike sincerity cutting straight through their adult turmoil. While their eyes darted to each other, analyzing how to answer his question, Sarah felt hope sparking again. We can, if we all agree to let the past go and really listen to one another. But what if Tom hesitated? What if we can't? The room held its breath, the uncertainty palpable in the air. It was a question tied to fears none wanted to voice, but deep down, they knew the answer rested with them. Could they choose honesty over pain, connection over division? Ethan beamed brightly, a light in a dark world. Then let us try. As they began to speak again, their hearts slowly opening, a loud crash outside startled them. The continuation of their night was interrupted as the joyous shouts morphed into worried cries. Mom! What was that? Ethan's voice quaked with fear as he gripped Sarah's arm. Tom rushed to the window, heart racing. I'll check. But Sarah felt another wave of uncertainty wash over her. Was this another obstacle they would face together, or was it a sign that they weren't ready for the journey ahead? With their trust suspended in the air, they needed to decide quickly. Would they stand together or let the storm pull them apart again? As an unexpected chill coursed through the room, she realized the night was far from over. It had only just begun. Tom hesitated at the window, his eyes scanning the street outside. The laughter and cheers had faded into something more frantic, more menacing. He could see a group of teenagers huddled around an overturned car, their silhouettes dancing beneath the flickering street lights, contrasting with the heavy darkness surrounding them. Stay here. He called back to Sarah and Ethan, ready to leave. But the world beyond the glass seemed to pulse with energy. Dad, wait. Ethan tugged at his shirt. What if they're in trouble? For once, listen to me, Ethan. I need to see what's going on. The authority in Tom's voice startled everyone. But it was a tempest brewing inside him, spurred by a mix of fatherly instinct and a desperate need for action. Sarah felt the cold grip of worry tighten around her heart. Tom, she interjected, stepping closer. Let me go with you. I'm fine. I need to handle this. He flung the door open, stepping into the night, the chill biting at his skin. For a moment, Sarah watched him disappear into the shadows, every inch of her wanting to follow. But she turned to Ethan, who looked up at her with wide, frightened eyes. Mom, what's happening? His voice was barely above a whisper. Sarah knelt down beside him, her mind racing. I don't know, sweetheart. But we need to keep safe, okay? I want you to go to the far corner of the room and stay there. His lip trembled, but he nodded, inching away from her. She could barely hold her own emotions at bay as she watched him retreat, longing to erase the fear from his face. A cry echoed from outside, sharp and urgent. It sliced through the room, causing Sarah to jump. She hurried to the window, pressing her forehead against the cool glass. Through the chaos, silence loomed like a shadow over everything. Ethan, come here. She called, panic spilling into her voice. She caught a glimpse of Tom arguing with the group of teenagers. They were shouting now, hands waving. Her heart sank. What if it escalated? What if he didn't come back? Just then, she heard a soft thud from the back of the house. Sarah turned sharply, instinct pulling her in that direction. Ethan, stay. Everyone was on edge, the thrill of the night morphing into something sinister. Ethan clung to the table, peering over it. The back door creaked ominously as she stepped cautiously inside, fear binding her every move. She wanted to feel brave, but the weight of the uncertainty felt like heavy chains. Suddenly, the door burst open, revealing Tom, cheeks flushed, breathless. "It's fine. They were just messing around." His words rushed out as if he could will away the fear that had stitched itself in her mind. "Messing around? Tom, it didn't sound like just fun?" She snapped, feeling the anger boil within her as her heart raced. "Mom." Ethan's voice interrupted, wide-eyed with alarm. "Can we all just be happy? Please?" Momentarily stunned, the weight of reality fell heavy on them. Sarah felt the bitterness dissolve, replaced with an intense urge to protect the peace that had nearly been restored. "Of course, buddy," she said gently, crouching down to his level. "We just have to make sure everyone's all right." She reached to brush a lock of hair from his forehead, her heart feeling lighter even as the edges of the night closed in around them. Tom's expression softened, and he stepped closer, linking their hands together, confronting the silence that had become so familiar between them. "Maybe we can just get back to our stories, huh?" Tom suggested, his voice calming. "I'd like that," Sarah replied, glancing at Ethan. His tiny smile was the spark they all desperately needed. Just as they were about to settle into a new rhythm, the sound of police sirens wailed in the distance, signaling chaos that might still be lurking. The warmth of their reunion was undercut by an ominous tremor. Out there in the night, many more unanswered questions waited. "Will this night ever be what we hoped?" Sarah whispered, aligning her heart to the pulse of vulnerability. In that quiet moment, they could all feel it, the fragility of their new beginning. "Stay close," Tom reminded them, fear creeping back in. They huddled together, united in uncertainty, as more sirens echoed closer, the night unfolding with more stories yet to be told. As the sound grew nearer, what would they face next? The sirens rose and fell, a haunting symphony that wound through the streets, echoing back the distant chaos. Tom squeezed Sarah and Ethan's hands tighter. Each distant wail only magnified the clamor in Sarah's heart. The world outside was a carnival of fear, and they were trapped in a funhouse mirror of uncertainty. "Can't we just turn it all off?" Sarah whispered, a desperate plea weaving through her words. It was as if her own voice betrayed her, quaking with unspent terror. Tom shook his head, his jaw tightening. "No, we have to pay attention. There's something going on out there." As the weight of his words sank in, they could all sense the night shifting, as though the darkness itself was pulling tighter around their small sanctuary. Sarah turned towards the window again, her breath hitching as more figures appeared in the street, a small sea of flashing lights and silhouettes of uniformed officers. "Who are they?" Ethan asked, eyes wide, innocent curiosity fighting against the backdrop of anxiety. Sarah knelt to his eye level, forcing herself to stay calm. "They're just people trying to help, Ethan. We're safe here." But she wasn't entirely convinced. The unknown lay just beyond the glass, a thin barrier separating them from whatever that group of teenagers had unleashed. Silently, she wondered if Tom had unknowingly stepped into something more dangerous than a simple dispute. Anxiety washed over her anew. Suddenly, a loud voice blared outside, "Everyone clear the area." The tone was urgent, commanding. Ethan's grip on the table tightened. "What if they come here?" "No one is coming here," Tom reassured, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of concern. The clarity of his voice wavered against the unease that clung to the air. As he continued to observe the street, Sarah felt a profound shift in the room's energy. It was like the fracture in their small world had grown wider, spilling fear in every direction. "Maybe we should just go to bed," she suggested, trying to redirect everyone's rising panic into something manageable. "We could read a bit more of that storybook we started." Ethan nodded, ever eager to escape into the warmth of fantasy. "Yeah. Let us do that." But just as Sarah turned to guide them towards the living room, another burst of noise erupted outside, a sound more shrill than the rest. A piercing scream cut through the night like glass shattering. Instinctively, her body froze. Tom shot her a glance, urgency flooding back into his expression. "Stay here. I'll check it out." "Do you have to do this?" Sarah implored, a mix of fear and anger sparking in her voice. What if it's dangerous? His lips pressed into a line. I need to know if it's serious. Stay put. Before she could argue further, he bounded out the door, and a wave of desolation swept over Sarah. Mom, will everything be okay? Ethan's tiny voice whispered, breaking through her thoughts like a fragile lifeline. Sarah knelt to hug him tightly. I don't know, sweetheart, but we have to be brave. Just like Dad. But as she spoke, doubt gnawed at her. What if Tom didn't come back this time? What if the night spiraled out of control, taking them with it? Moments passed, each tick of the clock heavy with dread. Suddenly, the front door flung open once more. This time, it wasn't Tom. Two police officers rushed in, faces grim, their eyes scanning the room quickly. Ma'am, we need you and your son to come with us. It's not safe here, one of them said, urgency layered in his tone. Sarah stepped back, a wave of panic crashing over her. But my husband, it's not safe, the officer repeated, and fear carved deeper into her heart. She couldn't leave without Tom. Suddenly, her world felt as if it were unraveling. We need to find him. The officer looked at her, compassion mixed with resolve flickering in his eyes. We will, but you have to trust us. We can protect you both. Her heart raced as she clung to Ethan, torn between leaving and staying. Would trusting them mean she might never see Tom again? As the weight of the decision bore down, Sarah felt her breath quicken, the din of uncertainty crashing through her. She was caught in a tempest of worry and despair. What do we do? Sarah felt the desperation in her chest constricting. The sirens blared closer, echoing across the restless night. It seemed the world around them was not done spinning yet. Would she have to make the hardest choice of all? Sarah's heart raced as she looked to Ethan, his small face reflecting the same confusion that swirled in her mind. She could feel the weight of the officer's gaze, pressing down like a heavy blanket on her shoulders. Okay, she finally said, her voice trembling as she gulped down the lump in her throat. Let us go. Ethan clutched her tighter as they moved toward the door, each step feeling like a surrender. The officers led the way, but Sarah's mind was filled with thoughts of Tom. Would he be all right? Was he still out there, caught in whatever chaos had taken over the night? The officers ushered them outside into the frigid air. The first thing that hit her was the cacophony of sounds, a mix of shouting, crackling radios, and voices trying to cut through the chaos. The street was alive with flashing lights, illuminating faces both familiar and foreign. Mom? Ethan's voice broke through the noise, pulling her back from the edge of her thoughts. Is Dad coming with us? She turned and knelt beside him again, her heart aching. He'll be right behind us, I promise. He's just checking something out, okay? But she didn't believe her own words. Each second without Tom felt like a hammer pounding against the wall of her composure. As they made their way toward the police vehicle, a sudden shout caught the attention of everyone around them. Get back! Everyone, get back! It was a voice filled with rage and panic. Fear washed over Sarah, sending chills down her spine. What's happening? One of the officers glanced back. Stay close. The crowd pulled away from the source of the shouting, a surge of anxiety flowing like an electric current. Sarah felt Ethan shift closer to her, sensing the tension enveloping them. Up there! A man in the crowd yelled, pointing to a figure standing on a nearby rooftop. It was a teenager, waving something of flare, perhaps arms raised defiantly against the night sky. Sarah's breath hitched as she recognized the wildness in the boy's eyes. He looked almost feral, cornered by fear and adrenaline. How had things escalated so quickly? Mom, I'm scared, Ethan whispered, his small frame trembling against her. Sarah pulled him closer, wrapping her arms around him. Me too, buddy, but we're going to be okay. Just stay close. The officers were shouting orders now, trying to get control of the situation. We need backup. Move away from the area. Their voices cracked through the noise, but the commotion only grew louder. Suddenly, the boy on the rooftop let out a wild scream. No one can stop us. A crash echoed across the street, sending a collective gasp ripping through the crowd. Sarah instinctively ducked, clutching Ethan tighter, as chaos erupted around them. Get in the car. One of the officers yelled, urgency spilling from every word. Before she could process what was happening, she found herself being pushed toward the police vehicle with Ethan safely tucked under her arm. The door slammed shut behind them, the reality of the world outside swallowed by thick glass. But even as they sat inside, the tension didn't dissipate. Mom, what's going to happen? She glanced down at Ethan, whose big eyes were wide with fear. I don't know, sweetheart, she said, fighting the quiver in her voice. But we're going to be safe here. Moments passed, but the sirens became a distant orchestra of despair punctuated by the chaos outside. Then, all at once, the world around them seemed to shift again. A loud bang hit the air, causing Sarah to flinch. The police vehicle rocked slightly, and for a moment, time stopped. Stay down. The officer beside them shouted, fear snapping through his voice. What had she just plunged into? And with that one question, the sense of impending doom fell heavy around them, wrapping Sarah in a cloak of darkness. She tightened her grip on Ethan. How could she protect him while her heart called out for Tom? A momentary silence engulfed the vehicle, followed by the sound of urgent footsteps approaching. Would this night ever end? What more was in store for them? The air inside the police vehicle felt stifling, heavy with unspoken fears. Sarah's heart pounded against her chest, each beat a reminder of what was at stake. The chaos outside blurred into a distant hurricane of noise, but all she could focus on was keeping Ethan safe. Ethan looked up at her, his innocent eyes searching for answers. Are the bad guys coming for us? His voice was barely a whisper, and the fragility of it struck like a knife. No, sweetheart, she replied, forcing a calm she didn't feel. The officers are here to protect us. But even as the words left her mouth, doubt twisted like a vine around her thoughts. The officer in the front seat had his gaze fixed outside, tense muscles coiled like springs. We'll get you out of here safe, he reassured them, but his tone lacked certainty. Sarah caught a glimpse of his reflection in the rearview mirror, and the lines of worry etched deep into his face reminded her that even those sworn to protect felt the weight of the storm brewing outside. Then came another blast, a loud crack that shattered the semblance of safety within the vehicle. Glass rattled, and she instinctively pulled Ethan closer. It's okay, she murmured, though her heart raced with panic. What if they were wrong about being safe here? Before Sarah could speak again, the officer reached for his radio. We need backup now. There's too much going on. Requesting immediate support. His voice cracked, heightening the tension. Ethan's small hand trembled in hers. Mom, I need to go to Dad. Her heart clenched at the sadness in his voice. I know, buddy. I want him here too. But we have to wait just a little longer. The sounds of chaos outside grew louder. Shouts mingled with the booms of crumbling debris. The entire vehicle shook again, more violently this time. A crack sounded near the windshield, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. This was more than just chaos, it felt like a war outside. Hang on tight. The officer warned, slamming the vehicle into gear. They jerked forward sharply. Sarah instinctively shielded Ethan, her body a barrier against whatever chaos lurked just beyond the glass. In that moment, she could hear Ethan's heartbeat, rapid and small against her chest. His face was pale, fear etched across his features. She couldn't let him see her own fears as they spiraled. Ethan, remember the treehouse we built? She asked suddenly, trying to distract him. How we imagined it would be a fortress? His eyes flickered, responding to her attempt at normalcy. Yeah. We made it strong so nothing could get in. Exactly. We'll be just like that treehouse. Strong and safe. She forced a smile, her heart aching with every ounce of truth she tried to weave into the lie.as the vehicle swerved. They entered the quieter part of the street, and for the briefest moment, Sarah thought maybe they were out of the fray. But then, the shadows shifted, and a figure emerged from the chaos, a man with wild eyes, moving erratically towards them, arms raised in what seemed like desperation. "Mom, what's that?" Ethan asked, his voice shaky. "Just stay down, sweetheart. Stay down." She pulled him lower again, but fear gripped her heart. What if this was another twist in the nightmare? "Get out of the car!" the man yelled, and the officer held his weapon tight, voice steady despite the fear creeping into the car's atmosphere. "I said get out." Adrenaline surged through Sarah, and she felt as though the ground beneath them shifted. Would this be the moment they faced danger directly? Every second stretched painfully as they awaited a decision. What would happen now? Then out of the corner of her eye, Sarah noticed the glint of something shiny in the man's hands. A weapon. Her heart constricted in fear. "Hold on tight, Ethan!" she shouted, her voice cutting through the flickering, surrounding chaos. And with that, the world erupted around them as the tension reached a breaking point. What was going to happen next could shift everything. The officer's eyes widened as he pulled the vehicle into a tight turn, tires skidding against the pavement. Sarah clutched Ethan tightly, whispering over and over, "It's going to be okay." But she wasn't sure if she believed it herself. Outside, the chaos intensified, and the man's frantic shouts echoed in her ears. In a split second, the officer fired a warning shot into the air, hoping to disperse the man threatening them. The sound was deafening, slicing through the air beyond the vehicle like a razor. "Get back!" he yelled, voice booming and authoritative. But the man didn't retreat. Instead, he surged forward, driven by a mix of desperation and rage. Panic twisted in Sarah's gut. Was he running towards help or danger? "Mom, I don't want to die." Ethan's voice pierced her thoughts, raw and full of terror. "Shoo, we're safe. I promise." Her voice trembled, almost cracking under the pressure. She could feel Ethan's small frame shaking against her, and it made her feel even more helpless. The officer was shouting now, barking orders into his radio, desperate for backup that felt leagues away. "We need someone on scene. Now." His eyes darted between the rearview mirror and the man outside, anxiety brewing like a storm in his expression. "Mom, look." Ethan's voice was high-pitched. He pointed, and Sarah turned just in time to see a flash of movement. A group of officers appeared, a wave of blue uniforms flooding into view like angels coming to rescue them. They hustled forward, drawing their weapons, loud commands filling the air to create some order among the chaos. "Get back!" one of them yelled at the man, who stumbled backward, eyes wide with fear and disbelief. Sarah felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, but lingering apprehension held it at bay. The officer driving their vehicle shouted again, "We're in here. Help us!" Finally, attention shifted from the man to the police vehicle. The officers approached cautiously, their eyes scanning the interior as they moved with purpose. Relief washed over Sarah like a soothing balm. Then, she felt Ethan squeeze her hand. "Are we safe, Mom?" Sarah swallowed hard, summoning a smile for him. "Yes, we're safe. Look, the police are here." She hated the way her heart raced in contradiction to her words. But just as they seemed to be turning a corner, a deafening explosion rocked the street. The ground shook, and the world outside erupted with blinding light and sound. In that moment, time slowed as Sarah realized they were still not out of danger. "All units, we have an explosion. Code red." Came the radio call, yet another layer of fear unfurling within her. "Mom." Ethan's voice trembled. "Hold on." The officer's voice was urgent as he threw the vehicle in reverse, tires screeching against the pavement. Sarah could hardly think. This wasn't just a confrontation anymore, it was a complete collapse of safety, a total breakdown of order. They sped away from the chaos, but Sarah's mind raced with thoughts of Ethan's father. Where was he? Was he safe? A deep ache settled in her chest. Would they ever be reunited? "Mom, are we going to be okay?" Ethan asked again, and her heart twisted at the innocence in his voice. "Of course, love. I won't let anything happen to you, she assured, though doubt crept into her heart. As they zoomed away, Sarah caught sight of other familiar faces in the crowd, people running, screaming, searching for safety. She wondered what would become of them. A feeling of despair washed over her. The fight wasn't over, it was just beginning. They turned a corner, and Sarah glanced out the window again. In the distance, thick smoke curled into the sky, ominous and heavy. "Mom," Ethan said quietly. "Not now, Ethan," she urged, her voice strained, but suddenly, without warning, something crashed into the side of the vehicle, jolting them violently, a sense of impending doom wrapping around them. Her heart raced. What if this was it? What if they didn't escape the storm? In that terrifying moment, she realized that keeping Ethan safe was just the beginning of a fight she hadn't anticipated. What lay ahead could change everything. The impact sent shockwaves through the car, forcing Sarah's breath from her lungs as she instinctively shielded Ethan with her body. The officer jerked the wheel, trying to regain control, but the vehicle skidded on the cracked pavement. Sounds of chaos were swallowed by her own heartbeat, pounding in her ears like a relentless drum. "Mom? What was that?" Ethan's voice trembled, his small fingers gripping her arm like a lifeline. "Just hold on," she shouted, though inside, her heart danced on the edge of despair. She glanced at the officer, whose face was grim. He was focused, eyes narrowed with determination, but Sarah saw the fear lurking beneath his professionalism. They careened to a stop, tires screeching against the asphalt. For a moment, silence enveloped them, a strange bubble amidst the pandemonium. The officer looked back, his expression a mixture of urgency and hope. "We need to get out of here. Now." "Where?" Sarah asked, panic threading her words. "Just follow my lead." He flung the door open, his hand reaching for Ethan first. "Come on, buddy." With a nod, they climbed out of the vehicle. The world outside felt like a surreal nightmare. Smoke billowed into the sky, twisting threats that hung over them like dark clouds. The distant cries of those fleeing reverberated in the air. Mom, Ethan's grip on her hand tightened as they hurried away from the car, his breath quick and shaky. She could feel his fear, raw and unfiltered, transmitting from his small palm to her heart. "Keep watching where you step," she encouraged, her voice steadying for his sake. They darted across the road, weaving through the chaos of police and civilians alike. An officer shouted nearby, directing others amidst the madness. "Stay close," she urged, her eyes darting around, scanning for an escape route. The neighborhood they had known with its friendly faces, familiar storefronts, now felt hostile and dangerously unknown. Suddenly, a familiar figure emerged from the dust and chaos. A man, his uniform caught the light as he sprinted towards them. Sarah's breath hitched in her throat. "Ben." Ethan's father. Relief flooded through her, but it was followed swiftly by dread. What if something had happened to him? "Sarah." "Ethan." He shouted, his voice breaking through the noise like a beacon. He reached them, and she felt the tension in her body unravel slightly at the sight of his face, dirty and worn, but alive. The corners of his mouth turned upward, a small smile of relief amidst the devastation. "Thank God," she breathed, pulling him into an embrace, her heart soaring and splitting at the same time. "What's happening?" Ben asked, glancing around frantically. There was an explosion. Sarah's voice shook, but she forced the words out. Before she could finish, an echoing crash sounded from down the street, thickening the air with another wave of fear. Her heart dropped. This was far from over. "Go," the officer shouted, refocusing them. "We need to get to safety." "I saw a building down the street." A series of sharp cracks interrupted him, bullets ricocheting around them. They ducked instinctively as terror took hold. Ben's protective instincts kicked in. "Ethan, stay with your mom. I'll cover you." "Don't you dare," Sarah shouted, the fear snapping through her voice. "We stick together. Always." She could see the resolve in Ben's eyes, showing just how deep this chaos had reached. Suddenly, everything shifted. In the thrumming heart of chaos, she realized they were facing more than just imminent danger. Their family was in the grip of something dark, something that could irrevocably change them. "Mom, I'm scared," Ethan whimpered, his face now pale and frightened. "I know, sweetie," she whispered, crouching down to his level. "But we have each other. You're my brave boy. We will get through this together." As they leaned into each other, Sarah glanced up, catching sight of the officers forming a protective line like warriors ready for battle. Her heart swelled with hope and dread. Would they make it out? What awaited them beyond this chaos? In the distance, sirens wailed, merging with the chaos all around. The night wasn't done with its horrors yet. The smoke still hung heavy in the air, but now echoed whispers of resilience and bold promises. In the heart of chaos, the family stood united and trembling, teetering between fear and hope. As heavy footsteps surged closer, everyone around felt the weight of the choice for love, for family, for the chance to forge a new path together. "We need to find cover, not just for us, but for Ethan," Ben urged, his eyes scanning the surroundings. Sarah nodded, clutching Ethan close, feeling the warmth of his little body against her. "Stay close, love. No matter what happens, we don't separate." Just then, the group of officers pushing forward caught sight of them, and one called out, "Over here." As they gestured, the surge of adrenaline filled the air like an electric current. They needed to act now. Sarah felt that pang of urgency echo through her, amplifying the determination swelling in her heart. With a nod to Ben, they set off, moving swiftly through the crowd, illuminated by the strobe lights reflecting off walls that had never felt so menacing. Sarah's mind spun with fear but also clarity. It was a moment of undeniable focus. She was fierce for her son, fierce for Ben, for their fragile family that had already endured too much. But as they darted towards the nearest building, chaos erupted again from behind. A piercing scream shattered the temporary peace. The madness of the night almost swept them off their feet. They faltered, but Ben's firm grip pulled them forward. "Run!" he urged, leading them into the refuge of a nearby storefront, doors buckling under pressure but miraculously holding. Inside, a small crowd had already huddled together, individuals stricken with shock, but suddenly Sarah's presence brought a soft sense of togetherness. They had all come to grips with their fears, their hearts now beating in the same rhythm, hoping for safety, for survival. "Let us barricade the door," one officer shouted, urgency crawling beneath his words as he moved to secure the entrance. Sarah glanced around, her heart swelling when she caught the eyes of another familiar face, her neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, clutching her daughter, both wide-eyed in fear. "We're going to be okay," Sarah urged, her voice firm yet soothing. "We just need to stay calm and stick together." As they organized themselves, she could feel Ethan's anxiousness ripple through her. "Mom, what is happening out there?" His small voice cracked, the innocence layered with fear, reaching deep into her heart. "Things are just a little scary right now," she said, kneeling to meet his gaze, "but we're right where we need to be. Remember what we talked about earlier? We're going to make new memories. Together." As she spoke, a glimmer of understanding flickered in his eyes, one that echoed her resolve. Moments passed slowly, filled with tension, and in those fleeting seconds, they felt the outside chaos fade, replaced by the warmth of unity. Silence sang among them, broken only by shared breaths and whispered prayers. And through that silence, Sarah found a sense of empowerment creeping back into her spirit. The family had a chance, but only if they continued to choose connection and honesty over fear. Suddenly, distant voices broke through. "Clear the area. We're coming." The officers' shouts cut across the stillness. Sarah felt the energy return, a wave of hope igniting like a spark in a dark room. "Ethan, stand close," she instructed firmly. Minutes crawled by as they fortified their space. The door rattled, groups pressed against it in a desperate push to escape the storm of uncertainty. "Just hold tight," Ben shouted, rallying around them. "We're going to get through this." His voice was a rallying cry, a foundation that gave strength. Then came a sudden rush, a hustle of uniforms flooding into their makeshift sanctuary. "Everyone! This way!" they directed, urgency spilling from their lips as the family clung to one another, hearts beating as one in the thrilling moment of action. "Follow us," one officer yelled, beckoning them towards safety. Hand in hand, Sarah felt a surge of determination, an overwhelming impulse to protect her son, protect her love, protect the family she'd fought so hard to salvage. "They're the good guys," Ethan said, his face lighting up with a hint of hope. And at that moment, the child's innocence thrust through the hesitations of adulthood that had weighted them down for so long. With the world outside still swirling in chaos, they stepped into the chaos all together, united in their purpose. "Together!" Sarah shouted, feeling her heart beat strongly for the first time in weeks as they surged forward, all three, forging a path towards the light, determined to rewrite their story anew. As the chaos funneled down to quiet murmurs in the distance, they stepped out of darkness, embraced by the warmth of connection and the power of a family united. They would face the aftermath together, stronger, transformed. Because tonight wasn't just survival, it was the beginning of something extraordinary, the dawning of resilience wrapped in love. And if you felt that surge of hope, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Your likes fuel this community, so leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions, what stood out to you? I want to hear your feelings about this ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread the message of hope and resilience together.